All right, guys, so check it out. Several months ago, I sent in 6 slabs to CGC that I had cracked from their original slabs because I really felt like I could improve the grades. I now have those 6 slabs back, and I'm going to share with you what the results are. So we're going to start off. I'm going to show you the video that I recorded several months back whenever I was first cracking these and talking about, why I was cracking them, what my projections are or what they were. And then I'm going to follow that up with today, and I'm going to show you what once again the final results actually are. All right, here we go. So you guys know I get a lot of slabs graded, mostly, I get a lot of sports magazines graded, mostly Sports Illustrated, but some other mostly sports publications. And from time to time, I will get a certain slab back that I'm looking at and I'm like, man, I think the grader got this one wrong. There's a few times where I've been pretty disappointed with the grade that I've gotten back. I usually try to be really conservative with my projections. And so whenever something comes back lower than what I projected, it's usually pretty disappointing. So I've decided to go ahead and pick out some specific slabs that I really felt were undergraded, and I'm going to crack them. I'm going to resubmit them to CGC, and I'm going to see if we can pop a higher grade. A couple of these I might repress, and some of them I'm just going to crack them and just send them right back in exactly as is. So here was my process that I went through. I keep a spreadsheet of every single magazine that I send in. I list the grade that I project, and then I list the actual grade that comes back. So I went through my spreadsheet of all the magazines I've submitted, which is now up over 100, and I pulled out a few specific ones where my projection was quite a bit higher than the actual grade that it came back. And it had to be a magazine where it made sense to send it back. Some of them are just like, there's not really much value either way. And then the other thing that I did was I actually pulled out 10. So when I went through my initial list, I pulled out 10. And what I did then was I scanned the QR code on the back. So if you didn't know, there's a QR code on the back of each slab. I think some of the older ones even maybe have the QR code on the front. But you scan that QR code with your phone, click on the link that pops up on your phone, and it will take you directly to the page for that slab with the grader's notes, if grader's notes are available. And so the other thing I did was I reviewed the grader's notes for each of the 10 slabs that I pulled out, did a really thorough inspection of each magazine, and kind of came to a decision of, okay, yeah, you know what, maybe CGC was, pretty close on this, or doubled down on my own thoughts and was like, yeah, no, I stand by my initial projection. This should have been graded higher. And so after I did that, I narrowed my list from 10 to 5. There were 5 of them where I was like, okay, you know what, CGC is probably close. It's not worth sending these in. But there were 5 that I stuck with that I'm going to crack and resubmit. So that was the process. And I'm going to show you the 5 now. I'm going to tell you what my projections are, and then I will follow up with a video that will have the returns and show you what they came back as. I'm posting this I'm recording this video right now, probably way in advance to when I actually post this. I don't want to post this video public until CGC has already graded them, send them back. So anyway, with that being said, let's look at the 5 that I've decided to send in. This is the first one. This is a Dr. J Sport magazine cover. I think this is one of the coolest covers out there. Dr. J in his doctor's coat, doing surgery on an ABA basketball, got the hat over his afro. I mean, this cover is just insanely awesome. It's from 1975. So technically it's considered modern by CGC standards. That's the earliest that you could have a modern cover be. And I got a 7.5 on it. When I initially sent this in, I projected an 8.5. So definitely, getting the 7.5 when I projected the 8.5, wasn't happy about that. Upon my thorough review, I'm going to meet CGC in the middle, and my new projection is going to be an 8. So I'm really hoping to get this one bumped from a 7.5 to an 8. So we'll see what happens with that one. All right, that's number 1. Okay, next up, This is Sports Illustrated China. This is Novak Djokovic. My original projection on this had been a 9.0. I got the 8.5. If you've seen some of my videos, you know that 8.5 is my absolute least favorite grade in the world. I hate 8.5s because typically I'm happy with a 9.0 or higher on anything. But 8.5 to me, there's a big difference between a 9 and 8.5, and I despise 8.5s. So I was ticked when this came back at an 8.5. And you know, looking at the graders notes, there were a couple little spots that I think I can actually press out to make look a little better. They're tiny, like creases that don't break color, so they're I think more technically considered bends. You can still see them a little bit in the glare, and I think I can repress this one and do a little bit of a better job getting those mostly out. Now, the SI China covers are harder to improve through pressing because they're ultra glossy. I mean, that's just the best way to describe them. They are ultra glossy, very, very glossy covers. So the defects don't come out as easily in pressing, but these are very light bends that there's two of them, one on the back and one on the front, that I do think I can improve through pressing. Once again, as it stands right now, I still think that this is a 9.0. But you know, maybe if I get a little bit of improvement on those two bends, it will strengthen my chances to get it up there in the 9.0 range. Because I mean, the spine is pretty flawless. There's not really any other defects. It's a really beautiful issue. I was also not happy that they didn't give me my labeling on the first Novak Djokovic cover. So this will be another shot for that too. Maybe I can get some labeling. So yeah, I projected a 9. They gave me an 8.5, and I'm sticking with my 9 projection on the second go round. Also, I think I misspoke earlier. I told you I started off with 10 and cut it down to 5. I think I cut it down to 6. I think I only cut 4 out. So next one is this Dominique Wilkins. I just got this one back really recently. It's Dominique's first solo cover. Definitely by far the most collectible Dominique Wilkins cover. And this is the highest graded copy in the world. So, you know, a little bit of risk there sending that back when it's already the highest graded. But once again, it's that number that I absolutely despise. And I had projected this one at a 9. This copy is freaking beautiful. I think an 8.5 is ridiculous. And I know, you know, there's not that much difference between a 9 and an 8.5, but just nothing about looking at the condition of this screams to me anything less than a 9. I mean, especially when I look at some of these like 9.8s and 9.6s and 9.4s that were graded like 10 years ago, like a bunch of these vintage issues. If you look at some of those early Mickey Mantle issues that were graded in the 9s, give me a freaking break. Those would be graded 8s today. And you know, this would be a 9.8 compared to some of those. So anyway, I can't remember graders notes. What did they say? Oh yeah, there's pretty much only one flaw on this whole magazine, and it is you probably can't even see it. Yeah, you can. It's a tiny. It's not even considered a crease. This is what would be called a vein. It's a vein. It's just a little squiggly line that does slightly break color. It can be flattened and pressed out. But you know, I was reading the CGC grader's guide or whatever, and they say that a vein will typically only bring a book down between a 9 and a 9.4 if there's no other flaws. And once again, I really don't think there's any other flaws on here. And the only thing that the grader put on here was light crease on cover, which he was referring to. He actually used the wrong terminology, in my opinion. This is a vein, not a crease. So I projected the 9. I got to 8.5. I'm going to stick with my 9 projection. And here's the thing with these ones that I'm sending in, like I kind of feel like it's fairly low risk because I just don't see any way they could get a grade lower than what they are now. There's always a chance if you crack and resubmit, you're rolling the dice. It could come back lower, but you know, it's not like I'm just grabbing any random slab that I got back. I was very intentional about these that I've picked out. These are slabs. These are issues that I think graded at the absolute bottom end of what they could go. There's no way anyone in their right mind could look at this copy in its current condition and tell me that it's an 8.0. Now, there are still some risks with when I actually crack it. I got to be very, very careful. You know, you could damage it in the cracking process. And there's also the shipping process. You know, I got to make sure I package them very well, and even if I do that, you never know what's going to happen in transit with USPS or whoever you ship with. So there is some risk there, but you know, if I can get this back to CGC in its current condition, there's no way this is coming back lower than 8.5. So you know what, worst case scenario, in my opinion, it comes back in 8.5, whatever. It's still going to be the highest graded copy, but I really feel there's a strong chance I can get that 9, and that's what we're going for. All right, moving on. So that's 3. I do have 3 left. So it is 6 that I rolled with. Now this one I might be pushing my luck a little bit. Dirk Nowitzki, first cover, 2002, 9.6. I projected a 9.6 and I got a 9.6, but I really want a 9.8 in this one. And I really think that this is a 9.8 candidate. I really think this is worthy of a 9.8. When studying, so there were no grader's notes, which is pretty common on a 9.6 because usually with a 9.6, there's not really any notable flaws, just maybe their overall feel is it's not quite perfect enough to be a 9.8. But the only thing I can even find on this entire magazine is there is one minuscule little tick on the back cover that, I mean, it's just the tiniest. It doesn't even break color. I don't even think you can see it on my camera. Once again, I know my lighting is poor, but you can't even see it. I mean, that's how minuscule it is. And you can get a 9.8 with 1 or 2 small flaws. And to me, this definitely is worthy of being a 9.8. So I'm going to send this one back and see. And once again, I don't know how they could give me lower than a 9.6 on this. This is either a 9.6 or a 9.8, and I'm just going to shoot my shot and hope that this time I can get the 9.8, because that'd be really awesome on the Dirk Nowitzki first cover. There is a big difference value-wise and collectability-wise between a 9.6 and a 9.8. I love 9.6s. I really do. I actually am usually thrilled with a 9.6. But there's just no getting around it. It's a huge difference value wise. And so for that one, I really think it can be a 9.8, and we're just going to go for it. All right, 2 left. This is one of my absolute favorite magazines that I own. Kobe Bryant, The Fan magazine. It's from 1996. He's still in high school at Lower Merion High School. Is this kid really ready for the pros? It's Kobe Bryant's first ever magazine cover of any type. The Fan is a regional sports magazine that was based out of Philadelphia that ran in the 90s. And yeah, this is some people I've seen comment and say this is considered a grail issue. And for me as a Kobe Bryant collector, I would agree with that. So I originally projected this at a 9.6. So you can imagine my disappointment when it came back as a 9. And you know, I just don't see any way that this is a 9. I think it's much higher than that. Graders notes were tiny spine ticks, which yes, there are 1 or 2. And then also it said some scuffing on the cover, which yes, there is also light scuffing on the cover. But once again, I'm going to put emphasis on light. Very light scuffing on 1 or 2 tiny spots, and very tiny spine ticks on 1 or 2 spots that to me do not combine to bring this down to a 9. So I'm once again gonna try and meet CGC in the middle a little bit here, and instead of sending this back hoping for a 9.6, I'm reducing my projection to a 9.4. I don't see any way this comes back lower than a 9. If it does, I will send it right back immediately again. If it, you know, and if these come back at the same grade that I had sent them in previously, okay, I'll accept defeat. I'm keeping them. But if they do come back lower, I'm sending them back in because once again, I already feel like they're at the way low range. All right, last up, this is Ken Griffey Jr.'s first cover, 1990. I got a 9.0 on it, and I had initially projected a 9.6. So I do think it's a little higher than a 9.0. I will say, upon further inspection, I think I was probably a little optimistic with my 9.6. And so what I'm going to do when I send this back is my new projection is a 9. What I do, 9.4. Okay, so I think it's gonna hopefully be better than a 9, but probably not a 9.6. I'll be happy if I get back a 9.2 or a 9.4. All right, so that's it. Those are the 6 I'm sending back. Once again, there will be a follow-up video to show you how they actually did. All right, now it is the moment you have all been waiting for. You've seen my 6 slabs. You've heard me ramble. Let's jump right in and see what CGC has come back with and given to me today. All right, first up, Novak Djokovic, SI China, his very first appearance on a Sports Illustrated cover, came back as 8.5. So it was originally an 8.5. The very first time that I ever sent this in, I projected a 9, came back an 8.5. I sent it in again, once again, hoping for a 9, and it still came back as an 8.5. So, you know what? Didn't get my bump, but at least didn't come down lower. I will finally settle, and I will accept my 8.5 on this Novak Djokovic SI China. All right, number 2. Ken Griffey Jr., first cover, 9.0. I sent this in the very first time, hoping for a 9.6, although as I talked about, that was way too optimistic. And it came back a 9 the first time. I sent it back in, hoping for a 9.4. I still got a 9. Okay, so basically I'm 0 for 2 on my crack and resubmit and get a bump. But once again, at least it didn't come in lower. And CGC, you win on this one. I will accept my 9.0 Ken Griffey Jr. first cover. All right. Number 3. Let's see what we got. We're going to get any bumps here. Oh, my goodness gracious. Dirk Nowitzki, 9.6 first cover. And once again, I got the same grade back. So you know what? Maybe CGC isn't so inconsistent after all. We always talk about all these inconsistencies, but look at this. They're giving me all the same grades. Very first time I sent this in, I predicted a 9.6, got the 9.6. This new time I sent it in, I predicted a 9.8, but I still got the 9.6. So, all right. This was one I was actually really worried might come back lower. I'm like, man, what kind of idiot am I sending in a 9.6, cracking out a 9.6 and resending it in? I was really just hoping to catch that 9.8, but once again, at least it came back a 9.6. I have never had a crack and resubmit come back lower up to this point than what it was before. Most of them have come in higher. I've now had a handful come back the same grade. All right, number 4. Let's see if we can improve our luck a little bit. I've already seen these. I know what these are, but just a little bit of element of surprise. All right, let's go. We've got a bump ski right here. This Dr. J, which, by the way, is one of the sickest covers ever. I projected an 8.5 the very first time I sent it in, and it came back a 7.5. And so I cracked it, resubmitted it, and this time I was like, okay, I'll hope for an 8. And I got my 8.5. That was the very first projection I ever made on this one. Really excited about that because this cover is so dope. All right, so that's a nice little bump from the 7.5 to the 8.5. I will take it. I will take it. So we got 3 the same. We got 1 bump. And we got 2 left. Let's see what we got on these last 2. All right. This is my Dominique Wilkins first cover right here. Red Hot Hawk. Oh, yeah, baby. Let's go. 9.0. This was originally an 8.5. If you've watched some of my videos before, you know this one means a lot to me because 8.5 is my least favorite grade in the world. To me, that bump from an 8.5 to a 9 is enormous. The very first time I sent this in, I projected a 9, but they gave me an 8.5. I wasn't satisfied with that. I decided to try my luck, and I got it. I got my 9.0. And this is pretty freaking cool because this, my friends, is the highest graded copy. It was already the highest graded copy as an 8.5. And I think the next highest is like a 7, maybe. I think it was significantly the highest. Don't quote me on that, but now a 9, that's even more out there as the front runner, and that's an absolute beauty. That's an absolute stunner. All these in this batch I'm keeping, by the way. These are personal PC items, which is why I really wanted to get that higher grade. I wanted to get that bump. All right, so there we go. That's two nice little bumps. We got Dr. J from 7.5 to 8.5. We got Dominique Wilkins. We bumped him from an 8.5 to a 9. All right, last one. This one was the most important one to me. This was my Kobe Bryant. You know, I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. Oh, yeah. Let's freaking go. 9.6. The Fan magazine. This is from 1996. Is this kid really ready for the pros in his high school Lower Marion uniform? The very first time I sent this in, I projected a 9.6, and they hit me with a 9, and I couldn't believe it. And so this time I sent in, I'm like, okay, I'll project a 9.4, and I got my 9.6. So I had great intuition on this one. I had great intuition on a few of these. And so there we go. 6 of these that got sent in, 3 came back at the same grade, and 3 came back with really, really nice bumps. Absolutely love it. So once again, just a warning, a word to the wise. You can't just expect this with any slab, okay? You got to know what to look for. I only specifically pulled these 6 out to crack and resubmit because I really felt like they were undergraded. You know, if I were to do this with just some random slabs, I'm sure a bunch of them would come back. Some would come back lower, some would come back higher, a lot would come back the same. But these 6 in particular, I felt like they were undergraded, and I knew I had a good shot. And I was right on 50%. So this 9.6, man, if I'm not mistaken, a 9.6 of this issue sold on Heritage Auctions a year or two ago for like $1,300. So this is somewhat of a grail issue, especially for me as a Kobe Bryant fan. So, all right, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. You know, anytime I have any other crack and resubmits, I'll be sure to share those with you. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe. I appreciate likes and comments as well. And until the next video, see you next time.